Good day. We're back again. Completely lost track of where we are. That's what happens with me. But I do know we're here and we're going to be here every day we can be. So enough of that. Let's go on to the wisdom for today, which is part two of that forgiveness tool series I was doing. Part two is forgive we. Yes. Getting back to that we, but that's our many hats that we wear, or the many parts that we are, or however you wish to look at it. It's forgive we, forgive we, forgive we, let it rest. Forgive we, forgive we, forgive we. A nice release. Now that may not happen for you. It may take a few times to get there. Eventually it will. And it'll be good for you because we all require to be forgiven as much as we forgot we're required to forgive. Now that's what this is really about, is allowing us to reach into the energy that is part of the universe called forgiveness and allow that forgiveness to flow through us. That will help us and it'll help the person that is, in some sense, requiring to forgive us, but doesn't even know they do or doesn't care to. Yet this brings you to that place where you can certainly do so. So there's your tool. It's very simply forgive we, forgive we, forgive we, let it rest. Forgive we, forgive we, forgive we. Like that. So may you find that helpful to your journey of becoming well. Let's move into the story. The story's getting interesting, isn't it? She's got out of the town, activated the family protocol, so the money goes to a good cause. Now she's made her way up the mountain to Firehawk Ridge. She found a small cabin that was useful and some canned goods for dinner. She made bean soup along with barley and beef. Sounds like a nice hearty soup to have after a long climb like she had. And she has just discovered the book on the sanctuary. And so as she finds the hook halfway up, hanging down from the ceiling, and realizes if she puts the bean soup there, it can sit on warm all night. That's a good thing, she says. Then when I get hungry, I can get up and have some. She was realizing some other things, and she knew that, her sleep and other things she'd have to take care of would take time, effort, and energy. She didn't worry about that right now because the book was sitting on the table and it was enticing. And the soup and the old metal spoon that looked like I'd seen better days, but nonetheless, it was a spoon and it would hold soup. Just like the container that she found, that's what she called it. It was an old metal cup. Looked like she was camping, in a sense. She might be. She went over to the table and she sat down. And as she did this, she took a couple of bites of the soup because she was kind of hungry, and that tasted good. And she looked at that book, and it said, Building Sanctuary. What is a sanctuary, and how does it work? She realized that big flat rock out there might be where a sanctuary gets built. Couldn't have a clue on how to do that. That wasn't her forte, building things. But she knew that there would be a lot of steps to it. And so after having a couple of more bites of soup and feeling kind of more refreshed and less like taking a power nap until the next morning, she opened the book. First page talked all about God. Of course it would, she said. Made sense. She had returned to God. She was wishing to follow God. And there was a lot about God in the first few pages. About setting yourself and putting yourself in a place where you can learn and be with God first and foremost. And that your commitment to God has to be in a state of almost absolute. And there were steps to do, things that she required to do, and she looked at them. And she knew in her life that these were required, but now they were open to her doing so. She felt the first time in her life that she was ready to do these things, to set herself apart, to truly be owned by Christ, to truly accept God as the only source of her existence. Yes, she was ready, and she would do the studies, and that's what happened over the next few days. I know you may say, well, I require more detail. Well, good news is it isn't in this story, but it will be coming in other stories, in other spaces. Have to move on through this a little bit. So she did those things. She gave full dedication to God. She allowed Christ to take over her life and own her in a good way as a kind master and a righteous king. And she delved into scriptures that she had never delved into before. She learned from First Peter and James and other difficult books. And there she was getting closer to coming to the next step. But she still didn't understand how this sanctuary would be built when she understood it would be. So she had purified herself before God. She had spent her time fasting, praying, and reading the Word of God. She was amazed how many Bibles were stuffed in corners and bits and pieces around that cabin. She was also eternally grateful to whoever stuffed them, because it gave her the ability to really dig in and look. I know the commentary series that her grandfather or great grandfather had left was also certainly something amazing. And she realized that her whole life was changing, the way she felt. She had truly forgiven everyone down below. far away and down below is what she said. And the reality is that she was changing, and she knew that. She's becoming something different. She knew that. It also felt like this was what she was meant to be. Whatever this came out as, she didn't know yet. She hadn't gone through the whole process. But the first part of getting close to God, she was getting done. It took her about 3 weeks. It seems a long time, but she still had some tidbits to do, but she knew that she was moving into the next stage. The next stage talked about creating sacredly. And she was pretty amazed with what it said, talking about thanking God for the tree, thanking God for planting that tree, just so that she could go and get it, bring it down, and figure out the way to lay the log that would begin the building of the sanctuary. As she read through the book, she realized many of her kin going back hundreds of years, which is that real? Anyway, had come to this ridge and done this when everything had failed, creating a sanctuary. Somehow they were able always to reach this ridge. The idea and the knowledge was gone, and apparently everyone that ever built a sanctuary, a little bit different than the last one, it didn't stay. I don't know what that meant right now, but I guess it goes over time or disappears or didn't know. And she had learned that, there was a lot of things going on, a lot of things happening, a lot of moving parts that she couldn't really understand. But she looked at the lessons and understood how to bring down a log. Free? No, a log. One that was destined to be a log, that was being asked to be a log, that was being thankful that God planted it exactly where it was, and would be turned into one or two or three logs. It was all about permission. It was all about being thankful that that tree had been planted in that position. Sounded odd, but here was God providing for her. She listened and she learned, and she listened to God. She learned and she read and she understood, and she went out and she did what they said to do, and to her surprise, the tree came down pretty easy. What even more surprised her, after trimming the tree and learning all those fun things like debarking it, letting it sit for a while on a rack that she created by reading. It was hard work. Her muscles were aching. Her body hadn't been used to this. It also was being transformed. She had a little punch that was from being in the office all the time. Her muscles were not strong. They were becoming that way. They were becoming like strong sinew, that when she would lift something, she could actually feel the muscles. And to her surprise, with all of the gadgets and gizmos that were around that wonderful little one-room cabin, she was able to move her first logs into place on that flat top rock. She was able to use the chipping axe to chip, and she was able to use the saw to saw, and she was able to do those things almost like it was a genetic memory. Like she knew to do these things, but had never done them. It's kind of odd, but there she was, doing so. The first set of logs went in, and the second and the third. And she was astonished. And really astonished. And then as the logs went up farther, she realized she required help. Went back to the book, and the book said to ask God for help. And that was when Jelly Reed showed up. Big old mountaineer by the looks of it. Been in the mountains all his life, apparently. Helping out people just like her. Raising cabins. Learning to live off the land. He knew it all. His father had helped someone raise a cabin here. Wonder where that one went. Anyway, it was available. And she was thankful. We'll leave it there. Let's move to a blessing. I do apologize, my throat's a little out, but I'm still here. God is still doing his miraculous works. So let's have a blessing. We come before you, O God, and we ask you to roll out a blessing that everyone requires. And so we do. Let the power and the presence of God overflow each individual in the unique way that will allow them to be who they are uniquely. With grace and mercy, first and foremost, and hope, joy, and peace flowing out of it, leading to abundance, understanding, and wisdom that leads them into a beautiful life. As Father, Spirit, Son wishes and wills, and as you wish and will, this can be. Let's have a word of prayer. We come before you, O Father, and this story is getting very interesting. Who is Jelly Reed? Who is he really? It sounds like another course of action is about to begin. It's interesting how her genetic memory seems to be coming forward. Kind of an interesting way that God built us. And we thank you for building us that way. We ask that every talent that is connected to this voice, that hears this voice, be stirred up into its unique fashion, that every message that is meant to be delivered by only that person is stirred up into its fashion. And that every one that is supposed to meet with certain people, that their voice will turn the tide for those people, that we ask for those meetings to occur. We ask you, O God, to go forward with us. Give us the courage and strength to travel the road that is before us. And give us the grace and mercy as we learn that road and as we move. Even though we may fall, we will still rise. We thank you for all that you give us, and we say thankful, grateful, gratitude, thankful, grateful, gratitude, thankful, grateful, gratitude, standing in awe and honor, respect, allowing all glory to flow. Father, Spirit, Son. This is, and so this is. So you be blessed. When you rest, rest well. When you wake, wake well. And know that the path is well lit by God. Blessings.